Hi everyone, I'm Rick Beato. In today's episode, we're going to talk about quartal and quintal based melody and harmony. Quartal based meaning based on fourths, quintal meaning based on fifths. That's coming up next on Everything Music. Quartal harmony we're going to start with. That is part of the opening of Schoenberg's Opus 9 Chamber Symphony. That is a quartal chord voicing. It's actually two quartal chord voicings placed on top of one another. The first one is D, G, C. The second one is F, B flat, E flat. And it's played in the horns. It's basically a fourth interval, and another fourth interval, and another fourth, and another fourth, and another fourth. It's what we call stacked fourths. Now, to many of you, the first exposure to quartal music or quartal harmony would have been in the Miles Davis classic, So What? When you hear those quartal voicings. So what that is in the opening voicing you have E, A, D, and then G, B. You have a major third on the top. E, A, D, D, G, and then you have the major third on top. So essentially you have a G major chord in second inversion with a perfect fourth under it. So this type of harmony was used by many jazz players following So What? It's in the John Coltrane classic Impressions with McCoy Tyner playing piano on that. Now McCoy, when you hear him play in his left hand, that's really a stylistic trait of his that was, you can hear it in things like in Impressions or Passion Dance, which is one of my favorite tunes. It's the for opening track on his record called The Real McCoy, which is based over in an F Mixolydian and has this F quartal voicing, F, B flat, E flat in it. Many other jazz piano players use quartal voicings, from Bill Evans to Chick Corea, and you hear it today in modern jazz playing as well. In fact, many modern jazz pianists use quartal voicings in their left hand, just like McCoy and Chick and Herbie have done in the past. So, for example, if you hear a D7 sharp 9 chord, typically you'll hear F sharp the third, then up an augmented fourth, then up a perfect fourth. So F sharp, C, F. Or A flat 13. So that you'll many times hear these shapes, these quartal shapes, as left-hand voicings or right-hand voicings in jazz piano. It's very common to solo over. To many of you, the sound of parallel fourths like that, stacked fourth intervals, is the sound of modal jazz from the 60s. There's a lot of really great things you can do with these fourth voicings. If you experiment with different combinations of them, you can create some really beautiful, beautiful moods. We're going to talk about how to do that. Fourth voicings were not just used by Schoenberg, they were also used by his students, Berg and Webern, and you can find it in Bartok's work and Paul Hindemith's work as well. The starkness or ambiguity of the fourth interval, or the stacked fourths, I think are what attracted those contemporary composers to using these quartal voicings and quartal-based melodies. The ambiguity of the fourth interval and the fourth voicings when you start stacking them, because there's no set key center, you can't really tell. The fourth can either be a dissonance or a consonance depending on how it's used. For example, if it's used as part of a second inversion triad, it's very stable when it has that major third on top. But if you used it, for example, as part of a suspended chord like that, or just that interval, it has a tendency to sound unresolved. That's what gives it the ambiguity. When you start stacking those up, Okay, so both those fourth intervals in that voicing, whether I'm playing it as an F7 sus4 with no fifth, that B flat wants to resolve down, or I can be playing it as a B flat sus4 in second inversion. If I play, for example, F, B flat, E flat, okay, if you put an F in the bass of that, well, I would call that an F7 sus4, no fifth, okay? But it really could be, you know, a C minor 11 voicing as well. It could be a lot of different things, okay? It doesn't, especially when voiced up in the upper register, it doesn't really have a center to it, you know. And the different inversions become other chords, okay? For example, if I take this F quartal, I call it a quartal voicing because it's two stacked fourths, okay? But if I go to the next inversion of it, it's B flat suspended 4, and the next inversion is E flat suspended 2. Now, when you start stacking these fourths on top of one another, you can either stack them all in fourths, where it would be, for example, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. So listen to the sound of that. That's exactly as it is in Schoenberg's Chamber Symphony, just in a different key. But those are all stacked fourths, so there's no intervals other than those fourths. But what you can do is you can use different combinations. You don't always have to use the perfect fourth. You can use the augmented fourth, okay? So you can start getting voicings like that. You can start getting voicings like this that you commonly find in left-hand voicings in jazz piano. So the way the fourths are put together can create some really interesting sounds. I'll give you some examples of those. Okay, so like I said, this is a series of two stacked fourths. Now, if you're going to orchestrate this in a string section, for example, you'd have to do some divises, okay? So that the notes are, so you get a balance between them, okay? You might have the cellos take the low fourth voicing. You could put the violas, do a divisi there, and then second violin, first violin. You can actually divide them up a bunch of different ways depending on how you wanted the balance of the chord to be, because maybe the inner notes might not be balanced quite as well if they're divided in the violas, for example. So you might want to divide them between the first and second violins. Anyways, if I take a different series of fourths, okay, so I moved up to an A flat, D flat, G flat. Okay, so that's an A flat quartal sound, but on top of it I played A quartal, so A, D, G. Now you guys are out, I know you're going to ask me what these voices are, and I just told you what the notes are. So listen to the difference. Really beautiful, beautiful sound. Okay, so what did I do there? Now I went to a parallel, back to parallel fourths here. G, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. So, here's the first voicing I did. Second. Third. Really cool, really stark, modern sound. So another thing you can do is you can put an augmented fourth on the top of it, okay? So instead of, we have, okay, so that's a very different sound there. Okay, so if we played a scale over that, you'd get an F Aeolian scale, or you could get a B flat Dorian scale. Okay, so So that is a quartal voicing on the bottom, F, B flat, E flat, then A flat, D flat, G. So there's your augmented fourth on the top, okay? So these voicings can be put together in different ways. They don't have to be played strictly in fourths. You can break them up by thirds. You do a fourth in the bottom, then you move up a minor third, move up a major third. That's a very consonant sound. That's with two stacked fourths. That's with an augmented fourth in the middle and stacked fourths on top. A little bit more interesting there. Once again, this is what I started with. Really, really beautiful open sound. You can also use it in a linear fashion, okay? And you can play ideas, let's say based off F7 sus4 and play something like this. Let's listen to that again. Okay, I'm going between F quartal. I'm actually going between F7 sus4 with no fifth. Okay, so F, B flat, E flat. And then I'm moving my left hand up to G, making it a G. So it's going from F mixolydian to G aeolian. Both from the same key, though. Listen to it again. Then aeolian, back to mix, aeolian. Okay, let me play it without talking. Okay, let me play it without the accompaniment here so you can hear it. Again. So that is an example of a linear playing of, I took a quartal idea, F, B flat, E flat, and I start just by arpeggiating. The opening idea goes right up the arpeggio. There you go. That is literally right up the arpeggio. So it's doing some different patterns there. So it starts as a triplet pattern, a three-note pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you can do the same over G, which makes it an aeolian sound. Or you can do it with the left hand accompaniment. Or you can play like this. Really nice sound. Nicer even in the low register. Right? As part of my F dominant suspended 4, okay, with no fifth. So the root, sus4, flat 7, or I can put it over G, D and make it an aeolian sound. Okay? So those stacked fourths can be used in many different ways. They can be used where you're just using a partial voicing, okay? Or you can use them in fuller voicings. Now, as I was demonstrating McCoy Tyner, that is what we refer to as planing. Planing is simply when you take a constant structure, in this case, 2 fourth voicings, separated by a third, and is a D Dorian sound right there. I'm using all the notes of C major, but really D Dorian, okay, because D Dorian's the second mode of C major. And I'm playing parallel fourth voicings a third apart, and I'm moving them, I'm moving them within the scale, keeping whatever particular interval combinations happen within the scale. For example, if I take this first voicing, let's say I take it G, C, F, A, there's your major third in there, D, G. Those are fourths, but then you get in. Here we have the augmented fourth in the top. You have the perfect fourths in the bottom, augmented fourth on the top. You can also separate them by a fourth. Okay, so these are quartal voicings planing in D Dorian that are all a fourth apart. Really, you can also use parallel fourths where you're not using the stacked fourths, but use them in ways like this. I'm moving the bottom notes down a half step at a time, starting in A flat major. Okay, that is a really nice move. You'll hear that in modern jazz sometimes with really hip players. Very mysterious sounding. I think that's what attracted those composers in the early 20th century to that, Schoenberg and that second Viennese school with Schoenberg and Webern and Berg. When you hear sounds like that, I think of, Bartok, music for strings, percussion, and celeste, when you hear those parallel fourths moving like that and the moving lines. I think there's a lot of material that you can experiment with that. Not just using the straight quartal voicings, but to actually just take a quartal voicing and move certain notes, let's say the lower notes, or you can take the upper notes. And move those parallel fourths within them. That is a form of quartal harmony as well. One of the things you can do to really learn where these are, the easiest way to start in the Dorian mode and learn them modally, where those sounds are, where the different intervals are, where are the perfect fourth, the sets of perfect fourths, and where are the tritones. If I start on D and I go D, G, C, well, that's stacked fourths with no augmented fourth. Same here. There's your first augmented fourth. When you get to F in the key of D Dorian, it gives you your D minor 6/9 sound. Okay, F, B, E. Very stark sound, very film noir sound. Okay, then you're back to parallel fourths with G, C, F, and then same on A, D, G, but then you're to B, and then. So where are you in your scale that you have? So on C, you got C, F, B. So anywhere that you have F and B in there, you're going to have an augmented fourth. So being familiar with where those stacked fourths are within the major scale and its modes, and also the melodic minor scale. If you take a C melodic minor scale and you attempt to do your fourths in them, you're going to get some instances where you don't have two fourths together. Okay, you've got a fourth, augmented fourth there off C, so C, F, B. Then you have stacked fourths, D, G, C. Then you get into very common voicing that you will hear for a minor 6-9 sound. So you've got augmented fourth, perfect fourth. Then here you have F, B, E flat. Okay, so you have this F to B, perfect fourth. Then you have B to E flat. Okay, so that is actually a major third, or would be a diminished fourth. Okay, if you're following the scale steps, then you get to stack fourths on G, then on A, same thing. Then on B, we come back with the same issue. Okay, you have an augmented fourth there, and then you have a diminished fourth there. So that's if you're moving diatonically in the key of C melodic minor. So the fourths don't always work out perfectly like that. You'll have some augmented fourths, just like you do in the major scale, but you'll have that third in there because of the series of intervals. So in the melodic minor scale, you get augmented fourths, okay, in C melodic minor. You have the augmented fourth between the E flat and the A, okay? And then you have the diminished fourth between the B and E flat. Okay, those are stacked fourths. So I've gone up the entire chromatic scale. F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, then B, E, A, D, G, C. Okay, and then I'm back up to F. Okay, so that's the entire chromatic scale. Okay, you'll hear me use these voicings when I've been demonstrating some of these modal chords. I will use a lot of these shapes in there. I might use them only in one hand, and I might combine them with other things. I mean, I might use them like this, where I have it in one hand. I have parallel fourths, F, B flat, E flat, and then over F major. Or you might hear me do something like this. What did I do there? Well, so I'm playing F, B flat, E flat, C, A, which is a really beautiful sound if I do it off G. That's a G Aeolian sound, okay? So I've got my F, B flat, E flat, and then I put in C, A, which gives me that sound that you hear in there, that really melancholy sound. It's a very beautiful. Okay? So those fourths there, because of that, when you hear that sound there, that major seventh, it has a really, really beautiful, intense dissonance there, okay? But the pattern is really cool. I played in the left hand. Root, fifth, flat, sixth. Then I start the fourths. So that's a really great use of the stacked fourths in the middle of a line. A jazz tune that uses all perfect fourths is a song called Freedom Jazz Dance. It's in the real book. You never really hear people play it on gigs, but there's a lot of people that learned the melody when I was in school. I remember playing it, and you occasionally play it on gigs, but that's a Eddie Harris tune that's all perfect fourth intervals. Okay, now let's talk about quintal harmony. What is quintal harmony? Well, obviously it's chords or lines built off fifths. Now, one of my videos that I was playing on guitar, I call them compound fifths, okay? And I demonstrated how to use compound fifths on the guitar. I did it in G Dorian. Compound fifths then would be like this. If I go F, C, G, Okay, that's called a compound fifth. You might call it a sus2 sound. Okay, so a sus2 could be, or a compound sus2, or a sus9. Okay, but then I can continue on with D. So I'm going F, C, G, D, A, E. It's a really cool sound, very open. Okay, and then if I want to continue it on, listen. Okay, that is a really another open sound. Those sounds of those compound fifths or open fifths. Now, a lot of composers will use those like that. They'll use them like that. Now, that's more of a, almost sounds like a pentatonic sound. Or okay, it's really open, almost has no center to it. Because of all these fifth intervals together, there's really no grounding of it. There's no harmonic center that you can hear with it, okay? Better if you do two compound fifths, but I don't do all the same notes. I did F, C, G, and then C, G, D. That's even cooler. There's a nice F Lydian sound. So I have a diminished fifth and then a perfect fifth there. So F, C, G, B. So I've got a major third separating that. So I have two sets of compound fifths separated by a major third. Okay, now that's a really really beautiful sound. One thing I would suggest practicing if you're going to do that is I would suggest practicing taking a scale, let's say F major, and go through all your compound fifths in it, okay? You start hearing it sounds like Thomas Newman, right? There's a spread, try that, but here. Okay, and if I'm in B flat, really great, beautiful open sound. So F, C, G, G, D, A, E, B flat. That's one of the nice ones there, which has a diminished fifth. Then B flat, F, C. Okay, that would be like B flat sus2. Then C, G, D, D, A, E, and then here's our other different one. Okay, it's a beautiful sound. So E, B flat, F. Okay, so we have the diminished fifth and the perfect fifth in that one. So anytime you're doing it within any of the major scales, you're going to get you're going to run into that tritone issue again, which is actually will be a diminished fifth, as opposed to in the fourths it's an augmented fourth, but here it's a diminished fifth. So I would suggest going through and learning those voicings, and then experiment with. If you're on the piano with opening them up by certain intervals apart, okay? So if I do it with 2/5 apart, right, like this, or compound fifths separated by a fourth, so I've got, there's the fourth in there, or compound fifths separated by a major third, or compound fifths separated by a major second. Okay, but this is really useful one. That one's great. They will work in a similar fashion if you're orchestrating them. If I put them in the orchestra, right, and I go, really open sound. F Lydian sound. Or I could do, these are compound fifths, right? So, F, C, G, D, A, E. So here I've got compound fifths in this hand, and I'm doing root fifth root, essentially, or I'm doing dyads. F, C, F. That's a really nice sound as well, using root fifth root in the left hand, and then having the compound fifths in the right hand. There's a lot of great material that you can work with out of these ideas. When you are experimenting, if you're kind of going between things like spread triads and then open fifths, or spread triads and quartal voicings, you can come up with some really, really interesting ideas and get into some sounds that I think you'll really like. That's all for now. Please subscribe here and at my Everything Music Facebook page, where I have my regular Tuesday night 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time show. Also, check out the Beato Book. There's a video available here on my YouTube channel that'll tell you about it. It's a book that I wrote based on a lot of these ideas that I'm talking about in the videos. That's all for now. I'm Rick Beato.